Dragon Ball Sparking Zero has been rated for a Nintendo Switch 2 release. We have another third-party game actually releasing on the cartridge, not a game keycard. The HD rumble and the new Joy-Con 2 controllers are apparently a lot quieter than the original Switch 1 Joy-Con, which will lead to some compatibility issues with games like 1-2 Switch. We have more information on Cyberpunk 2077. And of course, Switch 1 firmware 20.0 came out, and with it, the addition of virtual game cards. And a lot of people are not happy with how virtual game cards are being implemented because it seems to be hurting game sharing, but also there's like a workaround. So that is what we are talking about in today's video, all of those news stories. Of course, if you are new here and you enjoy Nintendo Switch 2 news and coverage, I would appreciate you subscribing. Let's get into it. Alrighty folks, welcome back to the channel. My name is Botox Games. I wanted to hop on here and just cover a bunch of little news stories because with the Switch 2, I don't know about y'all, every day I wake up, there's just a bunch of little things to pick at and to read over, and I'm fascinated by all of it, but it's usually hard to make a video on like one thing. Like, I can't do a whole video. Well, no, Sparking Zero has been rated for the Switch 2, but that's what we're doing today. We're doing a bunch of little news stories so I can actually talk about all of this stuff, and we will start with Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. Reading from Video Games Chronicle here, they say, Dragon Ball Sparking Zero has been rated for Nintendo Switch 2. While the game hasn't yet been announced for Nintendo's next platform, this rating points to an imminent announcement and release of the ports. The game was rated by Saudi Arabia's General Authority for Media Regulation. Of course, this game released last October on all the other platforms, and I really liked it. I like Sparking Zero a lot. I didn't put as much time into it as I would have liked. I definitely fell off of it, but this is one that I've been saying for a while, like, this is a no-brainer port to the Switch 2. Dragon Ball games do so well on Nintendo. Xenoverse 2, I want to say, is one of the better-selling third-party games on the platform, like from like a bigger publisher, right? You think of Skyrim and Doom, those sold over 1 million copies. Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 is right up there, man. It did really well on the Switch 1. I think Kakarot did well, as well as Fighters. So Sparking Zero coming to Switch 2, kind of just a no-brainer. Of course, this is the game that boasts that insane roster of like 180 characters. They're still supporting it with DLC. I think they're going through either the superhero movie right now or Daima. They might be doing Daima characters as DLC, but this is a no-brainer. I think we will see this announced at the June Nintendo Direct for a release this holiday. It released in October of last year, so I think there's a good chance it releases around that same time this year on Switch 2, hopefully with all of the Year 1 DLC included. That's what Street Fighter is doing from Capcom, where it includes the first 2 years of DLC with your purchase. Ideally, Bandai Namco will do the same thing here, and you'll get all that DLC included for the same price. We'll see about that. And speaking of Bandai Namco, we actually have some very good news if you are a physical collector. I know the game keycard situation has been out of control recently. People are very, very upset with how game keycards are seemingly plaguing most physical games on Switch 2. However, we have a new listing over on Video Games Plus for Tamagotchi Plaza, that new Tamagotchi little cutie cozy game that was announced in the Switch 1 Direct in March, but it also was confirmed for Switch 2. It's releasing in June, late June, so not a launch title, but not too far off. They put up pre-orders for it over at Video Games Plus, and seemingly, this game is not a game keycard. Nowhere on the retail listing or on the box or anything does it mention a download is required. It mentions here in the bottom that it is a Switch 2 edition of the Switch 1 game, but it does not seem to be a game keycard, which means this game is actually on the cartridge. Now, I think most of the people watching this video aren't that interested in a Tamagotchi Plaza collection. I keep calling it Tamagotchi Collection because of Tamagotchi Collection. It's Tamagotchi Plaza. This game, Tamagotchi Plaza, not a game keycard, seemingly, here. It's up for pre-order at VGP. Like I said, I don't think most people here care necessarily about this game. However, I think it is a good sign for Bandai Namco and their releases. They don't have any launch titles this time around. We know Elden Ring is coming to the platform. We just talked about Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. Tamagotchi Plaza, a much smaller game than either of those, I imagine, in terms of file size. I can't imagine this is like an 80 gig game. But I think it bodes well that, at the very least, this game would certainly be over 1 gig to download, which would mean that Bandai Namco is paying for a larger cartridge, which means that Bandai Namco might actually be a publisher that is willing to pay up and give us some true physical releases for their games. Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, I think, would be a good bet to have a regular release, maybe with the DLC included. Elden Ring might be a little bit harder because the rumor is that it's 64 gig cards for the Switch 2. Elden Ring Base, I think they could fit on a cartridge, but Elden Ring Tarnished Edition, which is what we're getting later this year, That includes Shadow of the Erdtree, which I have to think would push it over 64 gigs. So I guess the most optimistic situation here is that the Elden Ring base game will be on the cartridge, and then Shadow of the Erdtree would be a download. I would be okay with that as a compromise. I would take that over a game key card. But I wanted to mention this just because there's been so much negative press around the game key cards naturally, and most third parties, especially in Japan, have not been putting their games on the cartridge. Well, it looks like Bandai Namco might be one to actually keep an eye out for if you are looking for those true physical Nintendo Switch 2 games. Next up, let's talk a little bit about Joy-Con 2 compatibility with Switch 1 games. Reading from VGC here, they say Switch 2 Joy-Con's HD rumble won't be as noisy as it was on Switch. Nintendo says this will lead to issues with a couple of games, however. So I'm sure you've all played like a 1-2 Switch or a game that has the HD rumble just going crazy. My cat often gets scared if the rumble in my controller is just going absolutely nuts. And the Switch 1 Joy-Con were definitely the loudest like rumble in terms of like actual audio, like how loud they get when they're doing something. It sounds like the Switch 2 Joy-Con are going to be a lot quieter with their HD rumble. However, that does mean there's going to be some compatibility issues. So of course we were already expecting some games to require the Switch 1 Joy-Con, like Ring Fit Adventure. If you want to play Ring Fit Adventure on your Switch 2, you can do that, but you need to have the original Joy-Con there. But VGC specifically calls out Everybody 1-2 Switch. I'm not sure how many people will be dying to play this on their Switch 2, but they say here the list includes party game Everybody 1-2 Switch, which features a mini game called Joy-Con Hide and Seek. Here, players hide a Joy-Con somewhere in the room, then the others have to find it by listening for its vibration. This is actually one of the more fun mini games in Everybody 1-2 Switch. They say, according to Nintendo, while Everybody 1-2 Switch can be played with the Joy-Con 2 controllers, the game will be harder because the HD rumble has been made quieter in the new controllers. Quotes, the volume of the Joy-Con 2 controllers' force feedback vibrations has been reduced compared to the Switch 1 Joy-Con controllers, so it may be more difficult to find hidden Joy-Con 2 in the minigame Joy-Con Hide and Seek. So they specifically list that one on the Nintendo websites, which is just very interesting. This will have other effects in games. VGC mentions a game like Mario Wonder. The controller will make musical sound effects from the Joy-Con when you walk on the music blocks or use the grind rails. So the Joy-Con 2, it's not gonna like be a deal breaker. Obviously, it is a very subtle thing that most people will never even notice. But there were some games designed around how the Switch 1 Joy-Con HD rumble sounded that won't necessarily translate on the Switch 2 Joy-Con. So just an interesting tidbit. Wanted to include that here. So if you're planning on playing a lot of Everybody 1-2 Switch Joy-Con Hide and Seek, it's going to be a little bit harder to find the Joy-Con, which honestly might be a good thing. Maybe this will make the game even harder and just more fun. You know, it's more extreme Everybody 1-2 Switch. Okay, so Cyberpunk 2077, I think, was already like the most anticipated third-party port, at least on launch day. CD Projekt Red seems to be doing everything right in terms of the entire game, and the DLC is on the cartridge. There's a ton of new features. Well, yesterday they did a creator's voice spotlight, and we got some more information. I do want to recap everything we know about this game, though, really quick, because I've never played Cyberpunk, and I'm actually very excited, especially because of one specific feature. So just to go down the list here really quickly, it includes the Phantom Liberty DLC. Awesome. I've heard that's a fantastic expansion. The physical game is complete on the cartridge. Obviously, there's going to be gyro controls for when you're aiming, like a Doom 2016 on Switch supports that. I think Fortnite supports it. Obviously, Splatoon is the notable example, so you'll be able to do that. There will be motion controls. We'll talk about that in just a second. That's what we learn more about in the creator's voice. There will be mouse controls. So everybody's freaking out about Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. I'm everyone in this situation. I'm so excited for the mouse controls in that game. We actually have another FPS that's releasing on day one that will seemingly be playable fully with the mouse controls, aiming and shooting that way, which is going to be awesome. CD Projekt Red seems very proud of this version. They're saying it's the best way to play the game on the go, and they're really taking advantage of all of the Switch 2's features. The reason I'm really excited is that there seems to be cross-save across all platforms. I own this on PS5. And realistically, I would prefer to play it on PS5. Even though the Switch 2 port seems very impressive, I would prefer to play it on PS5, I think, primarily. But with cross-save here, it's going to be so seamless to just switch from playing my PS5 Pro and then swap over to the Switch 2 version and check that out in handheld mode. I have a PS Portal, but it's very hit or miss. Sometimes it works fantastic, and I love my Portal when it does work. There are other times I'm trying to play it on the go or even just laying in bed or something, a bit away from the router, and the lag starts kicking in, and I can't really play anything some nights on the Portal. This will offer a way to, if you want to play on your PC with your insane rig or play on a PS5 or Series X, you can can do that, but then if you want to take it on the go natively, there is that option there. But in that creator's voice, we learned specifically that the motion controls are going to be used for swinging swords and katanas and stuff. I don't know how much melee combat Cyberpunk 2077 really has, but they specifically wanted to highlight that the Joy-Con, you can use them to swing melee weapons in this game, which it's really crazy. I mean, we're seeing a lot of third-party support on Switch 2 on day one, and a lot of the games are using the mouse con. You know, Civilization 7 is a big one on launch day that's using it. I think Hogwarts Legacy, you can use the mouse controls to, like, wave your wand or something. But CD Projekt Red going all in with Cyberpunk 2077. So I just wanted to highlight it here because this feels like the perfect launch game. Like, this is the one that Nintendo seems to be behind the most. CD Projekt Red seems very proud of it. It's an interesting relationship, a company you wouldn't really think would be working so closely with Nintendo to get all of these Switch 2 inherent features working on day one. The creator's voice they posted yesterday is very interesting. We finally have some more direct feed footage, so definitely check out that if you are excited for Cyberpunk on the Switch 2. And then the final thing I wanted to touch on in today's video is Nintendo Switch firmware 20.0.0. Not technically Switch 2 news, however, this will obviously carry over to Switch 2 with the virtual game cards and some of the other changes they made. So first up, they changed the icons. A lot of the icons have been very subtly updated, like the lighting and the modeling. Mario is a little different, Yoshi's a little different. Basically, all of them got a slight tweak, but the big one people are actually pretty upset about is this Donkey Kong change. Now, I personally like the new Donkey Kong way more. However, it is a little weird for them to go back and basically just erase Rare DK from existence. It feels a little odd for them to just not have this anymore. Just make a new icon with the new design. It seems so weird because there's so much new merch coming out with this new DK, but then on the other hand, they put the old DK design in the theme parks. Did they just not have that planned out properly? Are they going to switch that later on? The Donkey Kong design stuff is weird because, I mean, clearly they are moving forward with this new design. He's in Mario Kart. He has his own game. That is Donkey Kong now. It's in the movie more or less. So Rare DK is probably dead. But then why'd they put him in the theme park? It's all very weird. But yeah, they updated the icons, the ones that are actually in the system, on like a system level, not the Switch Online, like ones you redeem for platinum points. So that's the first time they've changed that in a very long time, I want to say. They also changed the eShop and added a bunch of new icons on the home menu. It's getting a little messy down there, I gotta be honest. There's just a ton of icons on the bottom all lined up. But they changed the eShop. Rest in peace to the orange eShop. The Nintendo eStore, ever since the 3DS, the eShop has been orange on 3DS, on Wii U, since 2011, of course, and then in 2017 with the Switch, they changed it from orange to red, and it seems like this is going to be a permanent change. We've seen them do this in the past for like Mario's anniversary and stuff, where they changed it to red, but they've actually gone and changed the icon. The loading screen is different. Even the logo in the bottom right, they got rid of the spunk on that E. Remember that E? It was like a little tilted, and it had like the little 3 lines coming off of it. It added so much character. Now that's gone. It's all very uniform. It looks good. I mean, it looks fine. It's just a different shade, really. But yeah, they changed the eShop. The eShop, unfortunately, is still very slow. However, they did change a couple of things. So the way the best sellers are listed now is different. It used to be, I think, a 2-week period. They would pop up an update based on units sold. Now it's based on a revenue, which will hopefully mean that like the AI slop that's on the eShop will no longer ever get up there because they put their games on sale for like 10 cents. A ton of people buy them because why not? It's 10 cents. And then they jack the price up. That was a very common scheme on the Switch 1 eShop. It doesn't seem like that's going to be possible anymore, which is really, really great. Hopefully with Switch 2, they even improve it more. Hopefully they improve the speed, because that was the first thing I checked when this update downloaded. I was like, please let the eShop run well. It doesn't run well. It's still just as bad. There's a couple other things though. They also made it so that when you search, right now, there's nothing popping up, but I searched for a game last night, and it actually has a little checkbox saying include Nintendo Switch 2 games. So even on your Switch 1, it seems like you'll be able to look at Switch 2 games, similar to how on like Wii U, you could look at 3DS games and vice versa. So when you're playing on Switch 1 and you're looking at the eShop, even if you don't have a Switch 2, you'll be able to view games available on Switch 2. I hope they don't let you buy them, because that's going to get really confusing for some people, I imagine. People that will click on a game like Sparking Zero. Let's say Sparking Zero comes to Switch 2 later this year. If it pops up on the Switch 1 eShop, even if there is some sort of text somewhere that says exclusive to Switch 2, if they give you the option to buy it, there will definitely be some irritated parents when they accidentally buy a game that's not on Switch 1, but it's on the eShop. So hopefully you can't even buy stuff like that, but we'll see how that works. I'm excited to see when all those games actually filter in, because you can buy a lot of those digital games right now on Nintendo's website through like their eStore page there. If you're really eager to pre-order Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour, you can go ahead and do that. Other changes, they changed the news icon color to green. Very weird how they had to change all the colors because of game chat. The game share icon has been added. They made it so there is a Switch to system transfer option, and this is actually really cool. So if you want to trade in your Switch 1 for a Switch 2, you can actually upload all of your save data and everything to the cloud, sell your Switch, and then re-download it on the Switch 2. This is something that always plagued me as a child when I would like trade up my 3DSs for a new model. I would have to do the system transfer before, but GameStop and other retailers like that, they usually offer some sort of trade-in program. So pretty cool of Nintendo to offer a way to do that. And then finally, the big thing is the virtual game cards. Now, I was thinking about doing a full dedicated video on this, going over all of the actual information, but honestly, even though we're already 24 hours removed from it, people are still finding new ways to like cheat it and workarounds. I've seen a lot of people that are very happy with the virtual game cards and how it is more seamless now to share games with a significant other or a family member, whatever the case is. But I've also seen people that are very upset with the change because it sounds like if you were doing game share with a friend that lived across the country or something, that basically doesn't work anymore. I'm not sure if it's necessarily inherent to like family plans or what. I saw Game Explain and a couple of other places posted like workaround guides, so there seems to be a workaround. The virtual game card stuff seems like a positive for a small group of people, but a negative for a lot more people that were using game share to really share their digital libraries, which on the one hand, I'm kind of surprised Nintendo ever let that happen. On the other hand, Steam lets you do it, PlayStation lets you do it, Xbox I'm sure lets you do it. Nintendo is really cracking down on it though. One of my friends compared it to when Netflix got rid of password sharing across different accounts in different households. It seems like it might be kind of like that because it looks like if you're sharing a game, it kind of needs to be done locally. Like you need to be near that person and they have a time limit. It's like 2 weeks or whatever. So it seems like there's a lot of limitations with virtual game cards. Some people are happy. Some people are very not happy. I wanted to mention that. So let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. What do you think of the virtual game cards? Is it impacting your digital library or is it a net positive, net negative? Let me know your thoughts. I don't really do too much game sharing. Olivia lives here. So for me to send Suika game to her or Civilization or something, it's not really an issue because we're always together. We're always here. But for people that travel a lot, let's say you spend the summer somewhere else, this might really affect how you play games on your Switch. So definitely let me know if the virtual game cards are affecting you. For me personally, it's not a big issue, but I've seen a lot of people very upset about the entire situation. So definitely let me know what you think down below. That is going to do it for today's little news update video. Just wanted to tackle a bunch of different topics here. There's so much hype for the Switch 2. I know there's a lot of negativity around the pricing and the game key cards and a myriad of other things. However, there's a new Nintendo console coming out. I'd be lying if I said I'm not getting more giddy by the day. I mean, we're just a little over a month away from the next generation of Nintendo, the next Switch. Switch is my favorite console. So if there's a bunch of little news stories that come out, again, I will keep doing videos like this because even a game like Sparking Zero, I'm not going to make a full video on that, but also I'm really excited that Sparking Zero is coming over. So if you like this type of video, I will definitely do more. Of course, subscribe here for more videos like this, and that'll tell me to make more like this, obviously. Like the video, follow me on Twitter at BoTalksGames. Check out my other channel at It's Amiibo. I posted a video going over the games I played in April, so definitely give that a watch. And as always, you can click on one of these two videos to listen to me ramble about even more Nintendo nonsense. Until next time, folks. Peace.